I'm so excited you're here for the free training. I cannot wait for you to dive into all the goodness that we have prepped out for you. But before we do, I want to make sure that you know that this is not some average training video. We manage over 500,000 in hiring ads for tons of business owners all over the world. These are things that really help transform their hiring process, and it's going to do the same for you. In this free training, we're diving into how to get quality workers without dealing with the endless no-shows and 5 things you could do to fix it. Before we go any further, I do want to make sure you're in the right spot. So this training is for any business who's currently trying paid hiring ads, who's trying to grow their team, is sick and tired of having so many unqualified applicants, and is tired of wasting time and money and ready to start taking on more jobs. So today, you're going to be learning all of data-driven strategies that were built from us managing over 500,000 in managed hiring ads for our clients every single year. We're going to show you how to completely eliminate 95% of no-shows during the hiring process by avoiding these 5 things and what to do to fix them. You're also going to be learning the highest converting interview workflow. It's helped get 77 workers within 9 months for one of our clients, and how to naturally increase desire for somebody to want to work with your company. If you stick with me to the end, I'm going to share how you can get some exciting bonuses absolutely free. And if we haven't met, hey, I'm Christabella. I'm a mother of 3, a former military police officer, and a hiring expert. You may have seen me speak at some events such as the Maid Summit, Cleaning Cocktails podcast, or their live event that they had out in Chicago, where I had the honor of flying out there and speaking to over 100 different business owners that flew in from all over the world to hear us speak. It was such a proud moment to be right there at the top as a recognized expert right alongside of Debbie Sardone, because it wasn't always like that. I grew up in the cleaning industry, and every single time we moved, we started another cleaning company. We moved over 50 times before I was 17, and it was the only thing that made us thousands of dollars fast without having to work a 9 to 5. But I saw so many patterns as a kid that I grew up seeing that I wanted to break. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping other business owners to stop struggling to hire and start hiring without the same pain, struggle, and hassle that I experienced and seen growing up. So let's talk mistakes. Specifically, the top 5 mistakes you don't even know you're doing that's causing 90% of your no-shows and why it's keeping you stuck. Mistake number 1, not confirming the interviews. Let's think about it for a second. How many times have you been no-showed where you've had to stop everything you were doing? Maybe you've turned down an estimate, turned down a project, turned down a meeting, turned down a family event just because you knew you had a specific appointment or a specific interview coming up, where you've had to get ready each and every single time, putting on makeup, opening up Zoom, getting your paperwork ready, opening up tabs, or having to rent an office or driving to that specific location, maybe showing up a few minutes early, staying after a few minutes later. This adds up to so much time wasted every single time. It's about an hour of a pattern interrupt every time you stop what you're doing. It takes about 30 minutes every single time you're having to repeat getting ready, opening up browsers, loading your computer. Renting an office takes about $60, or driving to a specific location. That's about 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, and about $40 in gas. Or if you're waiting 10 minutes early and staying 10 minutes after, this adds up to about $100 being wasted and about 1 to 2.5 hours wasted every single no-show. So imagine if you had 20 interviews that no-showed. That's about 20 to 50 hours wasted every single week. That's going to cause you to feel so overworked, so stiffed, where you can't even think clearly, saying things like, I don't have enough time, I can't find anybody, nobody wants to work, feeling stressed out, working hugely inefficient. Imagine once you start getting interviews that are showing up and how you're not having to deal with all these no-shows, getting back 20 to 50 hours of your time, whether that's you or your staff. Man, imagine how relaxed that can feel, where you're drinking tea or coffee totally in your zone, saying things like, all my interviews showed up, I really like that candidate, feeling some momentum in your hiring, working smart, having that mental calmness where you're feeling less time that was wasted throughout the day, and more time to work on money generating activities. Adeline Home Cleaning says, if I have to put my 2 cents in, if you're looking for the least complicated process for hiring, I'd recommend Crystal Bella's service. I've been live with her system now for about 2 weeks, and I have 10 times the amount of applicants from literally any job posting I've made. They are automatically filtered between qualified and not qualified and scheduled for an interview, as well as the documentation post-interview to starting at cleaning. I literally just call my contractor when the calendar tells me and make sure it's somebody who fits working with us. And that's it. It's amazing how efficient it is. Your hiring process doesn't have to be complicated. Let's dive into mistake number 2, failure to create a connection with the applicant. If you never create a connection with the applicant, you're going to have a poor interview conversion rate, which is the number of interviews that you need to have in order to convert one worker into a new hire. And that number is going to increase, making you or your team member spend countless hours interviewing, getting poor results. Let's think about it for a second. Have you ever had somebody drill you? I like to relate this to dating because I feel like everyone's experienced that. But whether you've had an interview yourself where you felt drilled, a conversation where you felt like somebody drilled you, or a date that you've been on where you felt like somebody was drilling you. Or it's typically one-sided questions. They don't really care about asking anything other than like what they care about. It starts to feel like you're being drilled. And you know that feeling that you felt, right? Like wondering if like, oh man, I can never deal with this. I'm going to be dealing with this on a regular basis. Well, the applicant is going to be feeling that same way if you are asking so many one-sided questions. It starts to feel like you are drilling them. Let's say you've had a conversation or a date with somebody that you did not ever connect with, right? This makes it feel really awkward and uncomfortable. We all know that. We've experienced that. Let's think about some time where we had a conversation or again a date where they were so distracted, right? Have you ever had an interview and somebody was going through a drive-through trying to order something? Hopefully a lot of you guys can resonate with this, or maybe seen that YouTube video and the applicant was just like, oh no, I'm not ordering. And they're like, can I have some fries? And it was just the most hilarious thing. But let's take it back. Imagine, somebody who was feeling distracted, or maybe that date when they're just like looking at their cell phone or looking at the TV. It feels rude. It feels like they don't even care. And you're like, I just made time out of my day for this. Well, the applicant is going to feel the same way. Or especially if you have somebody where it doesn't really seem to care. This is similar to like the drilling where you're asking like one-sided questions, but this is more of giving 1 to 2 word answers in response to their questions. Like it gives off the impression that you don't care about what they're saying. And when they feel this way, they're going to continue to look for another job because they already know to themselves that they didn't get this, or like they didn't connect with you, right? And they will find a better one. If they are feeling any of these ways during your interview process, it's going to have a huge impact. So let's look at some stats real quick to where we have the yellow where it's no connection, and then pink with an established connection. So let's say we have this scenario right here where we have 35 interviews that were booked, and you could see a huge difference on the show up rate for people who have no connection versus an established connection. It plays a huge role in the amount of new hires that you're going to have. So it's so important to start developing that connection. Once you start to develop that connection, you're going to see a huge increase in the desire of people who want to work with your company. The applicants are going to start to feel like they've made a friend, and it's a little less intimidating, and you're going to start to break through a barrier that you can use for an additional screening. Happy Home Helpers went from 0 to 17 workers within 4 months. They were a brand new company when they came to us. They didn't even have a business license, nothing. It was just an idea. And it's so awesome to see their story. They're at over $100,000 a month right now, going so strong. Let's dive into mistake number 3, hiring out of desperation. It can be so damn hard when you need people and you're working like 6 different positions and you're all over the place. But when you say yes to every single person who showed up at the interview, you are doing more harm for your company. This is going to be showing them that you're desperate, and it's going to cause half of these people to lose interest. It's going to create a huge increase of people who are going to no-show you on their first job, and you're going to be dealing with an endless amount of unqualified people who are turning over 2 times faster. So once you start to slow it down and you're not saying yes to every single interview that's coming in, and you start to be selective on who you hire. Let's say you hire 1 out of every 3, or 1 out of every 5 interviews, or 1 out of every 10 interviews. You're going to start to get people who actually show up to day one. You're going to stop causing your team to think that they're never going to get help. And you're going to start to save on turnover expenses such as background screenings, training, software fees, canceled clients. And you're going to be able to start taking on more clients. Mistake number 4, offering the job at the end of the interview. So this means if you've ever had an interview with anyone, whether it's their first or second interview, at the end of the interview, you've offered them the job on the spot. So this is a huge no-no. No time during the interview at all, whether it's their first or second, should they know that they've gotten the job. This will mimic some of the same mistakes before, causing them to see how desperate you are. Let's think about it. 99% of the interviews that you've had, nobody's ever said no to you when you've offered the job. They're typically just gonna no-show you on the first day. And then every single time this is happening, you keep telling your team or planning on them, and it makes your team feel like they're never gonna get help. So once you offer the job hours after the interview is over, you'll start to increase the applicant's desire, increase your company's perceived professionalism, seem less desperate, increase commitment, and save on more expenses every time you've handed out those uniforms or those screenings. It all adds up. Maidzella Mode says, P.S. Crystal has dropped my Indeed pricing to less than half of what I was paying previously, with 10 times the quality of candidates coming through. Since then, she's hired 43 workers within 9 months. Let's dive into mistake number 5, scheduling another step for them. So this means if you need to do anything after the interview, to stop scheduling it for them. This could be such as a working interview, a second interview, an orientation. When you're scheduling it for them, you're causing your own no-shows. If you haven't caught some of the similarities, every applicant needs a non-confrontational way out of every single step in the hiring process. Once you stop making this mistake and stop scheduling it for them, you're going to start to see a huge increase of people who show up to the next step. So at this point, you might be wondering, okay, well, Crystal, I know what I need to stop doing, but what do I need to do instead? I want to introduce our 7-step candidate filtration framework. So this is our secret to a well-oiled machine that generates quality new hires without screening, overpaying for ads, or sacrificing quality. So I'm about to share the same framework that myself and my clients that you just saw have used to filter out and automate their hiring process in bulk to get more workers on demand. So our 7-step candidate filtration starts with position attraction. This could be the job post, the right platform, having that right messaging, being able to attract people in. Message alignment, this could be the application page, the emails, and all the messaging in between, SMS messages, having all the FAQ addressed throughout their whole process, application filters, whether it's deal breakers and qualification factors, and having them schedule and confirm each and every step in that hiring process, and having them actually pass each interview, as well as getting a job offer, whether they accept it or decline it, and then signing docs. So these are all the different filters in the job offs that you will have people. It's just strategically having it automated to where it's less work for you and your team, and you're eliminating those no-shows. So hopefully you have your pen and paper handy, because we're diving into the 5 things that you need to start doing. Step 1, start confirming the interviews. This can be as easy as sending an SMS 24 hours out in advance for them to confirm or decline the interview. Here's a sample of one we have right here where they reply yes and it will keep their interview, and then no and it would automatically cancel. So this is part of a workflow, but you can manually send out a text message very similar to this. Ours is automated, so if they respond yes, it's triggering a whole bunch of automation in the background and responding to them automatically, and then no automatically cancels, sends them into a survey, and all this other stuff automatically every single time. We did switch to a trigger link style, as we've noticed that there was a little bit of error with the AI trying to read responses and messages. It's going to happen, but this is the most recommended and recent way that we've been doing, and it's been working wonders for our clients. So a trigger link is very simple. It's just a link to where they click it and it triggers an action. They don't have to fill out anything. They don't have to put in their name. They don't have to put in their email. it just automatically triggers as soon as they do it. So like when they click on it, they're going to get like a little pop-up and it's just like, thanks for confirming your interview. And it's going to trigger an automatic response to them, and it's going to be letting their interviewer know and all the other good stuff. Versus if they click to cancel, that's going to send them to a hiring improvement survey to get some feedback, automatically cancel their interview, mark them as lost into the pipeline automatically, notify the interviewer, and also do all the other automation stuff that kind of comes with that. So step 2 is to start creating a connection with the applicant. We always say that your goal should be to get the applicant to laugh. This loosens them up, makes them feel like they're starting to connect, and it lets them feel more comfortable so you can get what you really need out of them anyways. This also starts though with the right interview flow. This is the recommended interview flow from highest converting to lowest converting. They all convert, they'll all give you a connection with the applicant before, but when I say highest to lowest converting, it just means how many interviews you need to have versus essentially how many interviews you need to have in order to convert one new hire. It just takes longer if you're doing that Zoom approach. The top one is the highest ranking one. It's simple. A lot of people think it's too simple. It doesn't work, but it works amazing. It's not overly complicating the process. But there are some companies that are like, oh man, I need to see this person. And that's where you have some of the other ones that can come into play. But this would be our most recommended flow that would help you have a phone screening with the applicant, and then either a few hours later, the automation would send a job offer, or you could manually send a text message to have them accept or decline the offer. And we'll get to an example on that in just a second. Or have that phone interview, and then they don't know that you want to go to an in-person. You're waiting, and then a few hours after, you send them an SMS that invites them with a link to that in-person interview. And they have to schedule it themselves. Similar for the working interview style. Again, you have that phone screening. They don't know whether you want them or don't want them. You wait a few hours after and then invite them with an SMS to a working interview, and they get to accept or decline that, and then they go to that next step. Same with the Zoom as well. So let's dive into step number 3, to stop hiring out of desperation. You need to remember, in order to speed up, you have to slow down first. Hiring subpar candidates will cause you to be so overworked, short-staffed, and will get you 5 steps backwards every single time. You need to feel 80% positive about the candidate before you go on to the next step. Remember, it's okay to hire 1 out of every 10 people. You just have to be strategic about who you're selecting. So here's an example of 1 month with one of our clients where we've had over 1,099 people apply. And this specific client has such strict filters, and it only lets a few selected through. So this one, we had 167 who were qualified, 158 interviews that were scheduled, and we had 23 job offers. So I want you to look at that right there. Out of the 158 interviews, they did not offer the job to every single person. They were very selective, and that's okay. You need to remember that. And they hired 19 people in 1 month. Step 4, wait 3 hours, then offer the job. So we recommend to wait at least 3 hours before offering the job to a candidate who just completed an interview. So after 3 hours, you can go ahead and send them an SMS to accept or decline the job offer. And if they accept, then you can go ahead and send them the links to the onboarding documents or schedule a time for them to come in to sign. Here's a sample right here of a job offer SMS where they just have to respond yes or no. For our clients, all they have to do is click a button after the interview, and that's going to go ahead and wait 3 hours and then trigger this awesome automation. It's going to send them a voicemail job, an SMS message, an email. And if they don't respond, we're going to automatically send another voicemail job and do all the good stuff in between and automatically advance in the pipeline. Let's dive into step 5, invite them to any other step. So remember, if you're doing additional screening steps, to invite them with a calendar link via SMS, or to let them accept or decline the invitation by responding yes or no. After our clients have an interview, if they did want to invite a specific candidate, they can just click that option, and it would go ahead and trigger this workflow where it's having them accept or decline the
next step, and kind of go down the workflow, whether they need to get reminded, notify admin, automatically advance in the pipeline, so on and so forth. Cleans In is in 6 states and has hired 73 workers within 4 months. All right, guys, what have we learned so far? We've learned the top 5 mistakes that companies are making, what to do instead with some of the 7-step candidate filtration framework, and how important each thing that you do in your hiring process can be. And you're here today because you want more workers without dealing with constant no-shows. And you want a simple solution to your hiring problem. Let's think about it for a second. How many times have you thought that more workers would solve all your issues? And then all the other things started happening. Like they started violating policies and you became a little bit lenient on it because you didn't want to lose them and your hiring process was so dreadful you didn't want to go through it again. Or you just felt like you were lost on how to motivate them or train them. Or maybe you only had part-time work and they ended up wanting full-time work. Or how to get more leads to keep them busy, or you always felt like you're going back to the never-ending balance beam of getting workers and leads, and then they quit after 2 weeks. It sure makes it a hell of a lot harder, especially if you're unsure on how to attract the right workers, how to get steady applicant traffic so you always have options to choose from, how to position your messaging or get them to see the value, knowing how to motivate them and how to retain them, and to get them to actually do what they're supposed to do. We help you balance all things workers, leads, and processes so you can get out of the field in 120 days or less. And maybe you're at the point where you felt like you've tried everything before and you're just really ready to make a change. Well, today is the day. Nothing I've shared with you is theory or ideas. These are all things that me and my clients have done to achieve more workers and take on 2.5x more jobs and get out of the field. But there are so many pieces to the puzzle, and today we covered only a small piece of our framework. And we're a firm believer in getting you out of the field takes the power of a strong team behind you. So you could step back and breathe with the right systems, people, and processes in place so your business can handle the fires without you once and for all. That's why you have 2 options. Option 1, you can DIY this on your own. Option 2, you can fast track your results with our complete hiring on demand framework. If this sounds like you and you'd like to work with us further, I'd like to invite you to book a call with me and my team. And I'm throwing in an extra bonus when you show up live on the call. We're going to be giving you a complete PowerPoint orientation, whether you have employees or contractors. Each one is specifically tailored to stay within compliance for you in that model. You're going to get everything that you need in that orientation already prepped out, the table of contents, all the highlights that they need to know in order to have a good kickstart with each model. You're going to get that if you show up live on the call. So great opportunity for you to go ahead and snag this bonus, customize it for your company, and bare minimum, get that orientation going for your company. On this phone call, we're going to be diving into where you're at now in your business and why you're stuck working in your business, where you want to be with your workers, your leads, your processes and systems, so we can get you out of your business. What's stopping you from achieving this on your own, and an honest assessment to see if our framework could apply to you and if you'd be a good fit to work with our program. Even if you aren't a good fit for the program, on this call, at bare minimum, you'll walk away with a solid action plan and a pimped out orientation ready to go and customize for your team. This is a limited time only. There's only a small amount of spots open on our calendar, so it is a first come, first serve basis with this awesome promo that we have right now. So if all of the slots aren't gone and you still want to go ahead and snag this, you can go ahead and DM me on Instagram at Christabella.co. This is a free, risk-free call just to help you identify the blind spots. Definitely recommend to get your spot on the calendar now. What do you have to lose except bad workers and bad processes and systems? Let's get you out of the field in 120 days or less. Go book your call today.